this then, it's a daily runner of mine. It's a Miele Proffesional PT5137WP. WP is really important because that actually means it's a heat pump. Yeah, professional heat pump tumble dryer. Nowadays, if you were to go and buy a Miele Proffesional condenser dryer, they are all heat pumps. So, but this would have been one of the first commercial heat pumps on the market, which makes sense because Miele do lead the way in terms of commerciality of machines. They're never the first to do anything. They take a manufacturer's idea, then kind of modify it and run with it to make it the best. And in this case, it's kind of no different, I suppose. They've taken the heat pump idea from the domestic machines that Electrolux first introduced and have refined it and made it to be fairly quick. Don't get me wrong, I've got my Miele T1, but I wouldn't say it's necessarily quicker than it. It possibly is slightly, but realistically, it's not going to save you massive amounts of time. So, start off the fact this is basically a condenser dryer, so unlike, say, the vented, your filter is just in the door, and it's just a standard filter. So we're going to start with these two panels down here. Now this is where it kind of differs from a domestic machine. So we'll start off on all domestic and the commercials, which is this side here. Push here, open it door up, and we have our, well, sponge filter, but the spongy part that's supposed to be over the top of that is missing. It always has been since I bought it. I need to buy some more and replace that. Yeah. So it's not exactly had the most well looked after kind of life, unfortunately. Right, so that goes in there. Take that out, take that sponge off, put it in the washing machine, clean it, put it back on. Try not to hoover it, because that's basically what happens. It takes the sponge layer off the top of that, yeah, and disrupts it. To be fair, I've hoovered it a bit. It's not too bad on the heat exchanger itself. One message I've been having though with this machine is clean the airways on the right. Yeah, the right, that's this one. And indeed, that's what you do. Flip that down with a fork or whatever, lift that off like that, and you have access to this side, which is part of your heat exchanger. There is a fan behind that, and that draws air through it. As you can see here, it is, well, slightly damaged. Somebody has tried to clean it, and they've actually managed to press on it. Not me, this is how it came. I've managed to bend some of the things out to help it. And that has now cleared the code, luckily. So, occasionally the code will come up, but it's not too bad. And bearing in mind, it will run the entire cycle and only bring up that error code after it's finished drying. So, it's not a detriment to the machine. Right. Oh, wrong way around. Got a kick plate at the bottom. If you're stacking it on top of a washing machine, you can get a stack of kits. It'll happily go on, undo them, and then it works that way. Right, one major difference between the commercial and the domestic is the draining system for the condenser. There's no condenser tank with it. You can't just like run it as you would a standard everyday machine where you would then take, say, the drawer out and empty it. No, you have to direct drain it. Miele have always been set up so you can at any point direct drain it. So as you can see here, we've got this water tank. Luckily, and this came actually in the Miele. It's actually just a foot from a an armchair or something like that. And luckily it is both the right size to fit on top of this container and the right size for this to fit inside. Now, if you want to, you can actually plumb this in using a special kit that Miele will happily provide for money, that can be connected, so you can connect this to a standard 30mm drain. Anyway, that goes in there. There is one thing though, and it is be very careful with this, because I found out the other day what happens. If for whatever reason it cannot drain this, it will still drain the tank. Like all tumble dryers, it has a little reservoir at the back behind the heat exchanger where the water collects, and then that gets pumped up. When that gets too full, the dryer normally will stop, right, and tell you to empty the tank. Yeah? Well, no, this doesn't. Be very careful with this machine. Underneath there is an opening underneath where that tank is, and I'm pretty sure it's basically using a solenoid valve to open, and it will just empty it underneath the machine, if it has to. Right. This happened the other day with this tank. When this tank gets too full, in fact, this wasn't in there, that hose was inside, and therefore it couldn't drain it for whatever reason. It then decided at the end of the cycle just to open up that valve, and about 3 litres of water came rushing out. Yeah, just be very careful. Clever idea, just needs to be implemented a bit more. That also being said, I would suggest, and it's a weird thing, of putting some kind of belly pan underneath, that if the worst was to happen, that if it filled it up, that you could then hoover it out, possibly. Hoover it out with a vacuum. Just an idea. That's if you are looking at this machine to permanently run, like I do, in a commercial environment, which this isn't really. We open the door using this orange button up here. That opens the door. You don't need to have the machine on to open the door. It can be switched off. But there is a reason why we want the machine switched on. Inside we have a 130 litre drum. It's bigger than the domestic machine since it has a deeper cabinet. It is made for taking 6.5 kilograms of laundry. So this will match both the PW55 and 65 machines. However, there is supposed to be a drum light. There is, but the bulb blown is up there. I'm going to do a how-to video on how to change that bulb at one point, because it's not just this one that's blown. My PT5137 also has a blown drum bulb. Down here, this is our ratings plate. It tells you everything you need to know, including when it was built, which was 2015. That's the type, so that's the build basically, GT09. The model number, the voltage. Now that's important because we've got different voltage systems. You've got this or a full 10 volt version. 1.25 kilowatts. Again, it doesn't state in the manual depending on the voltage. So it's quite powerful actually, a lot more powerful than say the domestic. But they will always wear these original heat pumps. It runs on 10 amp, and the bulb, that's bulb there, max 15 watts, which is there, which isn't on. Inside we've got a honeycomb drum. And what this does, because of the design, it means it traps hot air underneath, basically creating like an air cushion, which helps with airflow. Then you've got 2 drum baffles, and in there, they're the sensor bars that will run round on a band. There'll be a carbon brush picking up on the moisture. Then we've got filters here. We've got one filter which is in the door, and we've got the main filter in the door. So that collects the majority of it. That collects the excess. Yeah, you can undo these and lift them out and hoover underneath, which I've never done. You don't actually need to. It's very rare they will ever need doing. But look, there's a sensor right there. So if that gets covered in fluff and you're getting poor drying results, give that a clean. It should work again then. Right, we'll start from the top here. Turn it on. Miele Proffesional, you can turn that logo off. You can also change that logo and import your own logo. So let's say you've got a company with, that does service laundry, you could import that instead. Right, on finish, we can bring up the settings. The finish also allows you during mid-cycle, if you turn it from there and leave it on finish for a couple of seconds, it will just end the cycle for you. Right, so in settings, press OK, and then we can use the plus and minus buttons to go up and down. So language, change it from English to about another 23 languages. Supervisor level, you can access via the code, and what that will allow you to do is change things inside the machine, settings inside the machine. So then we've got anti-crease. Now supervisor level, by the way, yeah, it presets at 0000. You can change that code. You'll have to put the original code in first, then change the code what you want. Anti-crease, so it has automatic anti-crease at the end. Actually, I'm going to be honest, I don't know why it's off. You can have you can have 1 hour, or you can have 2 hours. So at the end of the drying, it will beep as normal, and then it will go into anti-crease mode for, well, I've set it to an hour now. It will tumble every few minutes, basically, keeping clothes from creasing, or at least reducing the creasing. Then we've got the buzzer, which again is the end beeper. Got normal loud. Oh, turned it off. Then we've got time of day. Basically have a 12-hour or 24-hour clocks, or you can just turn the time off. So this is kind of important for two reasons. Naturally, if you start the cycle, it will come up with how long is left remaining, but it will also calculate based on the time of day what time that will finish. But also when you set the time delay function, it will work in half an hour steps to the nearest hour. So it's weird how it works. So if it's, say, right now it's 11:28, I'll show you that in a minute, actually. So then we've got display contrast, which is obviously to do with that. Actually, I'm going to set it up a little bit just so you can see it. Display brightness, again, that's way too dim. I mean, again, depending on what kind of environment you are in. Out there, I think that'll do. Now standby, what this will do, the display will go out effectively. So you've got not in current program, so the display will stay on during the entire program until the machine finishes. If it goes in anti-crease mode, it will also go off basically. What it will do is the display will stay on permanently. If you use it, if you turn it on after about, I think, 5 minutes or so, the display will go out during the drying cycle. At the end of the drying cycle, if it's in standby mode, it will just automatically turn itself off basically. Drying levels. Right, So this is fine tuning, which to be fair probably needs to me. I'm gonna actually set it up too because it's just a little off at the minute. I'm gonna set that up to cottons. So effectively, if it's over drying, you need to send it down, set it down to damper, and if like me, I've just set it up by 2. Because normal dry isn't fully drying it, it's leaving it ever so slightly damp. So for me, I've just put it up to. Right, minimum iron does exactly the same. You can set the how fine-tuned minimum iron is. Then machine iron, again, we can also fine-tune the machine iron level for the cotton cycle, how drier or damper you want it to be. Obviously, machine iron is designed so your clothes are to go through a roller, and of course you're going to need a certain dryness for it to go through that roller. So you can either say damper or wetter. For me, obviously I don't use it, so it doesn't really matter. Then we've got clear out airways. Got light, medium, normal and heavy. This is to do with the bottom panel, the bottom sponge. Once it starts to get in a certain level, it will bring up a message to tell you to clean it. Although I've never had it because I'm usually very thorough and very on top. So then you got delay start. Basically, you can either set the delay start to either be a delay start or a delay end, or time until start, which is in conjunction with that clock. So I'll show you. Or you can turn it off. So basically, it disables time delay. Right. So we've got programs cottons, normal plus, as well as normal. So normal will dry it fully dry. Normal plus is normal dry plus a little bit timed extra. Then hand iron keeps it damp dry. The machine iron is, like I say, it's damp dry, but it's made for machine rollers instead of, you know, hand ironing. So for me, you'll notice the duration as well. 2 hours 3, then it goes to 56 minutes, then it goes to 8 minutes. And this is because what it does, it will take an average of how long it takes over several cycles on that particular setting. So it's trying to take into account what kind of load size you're putting into this machine. The load sizes I put into the machine are huge. In fact, I'm putting a lot more than the 6.5 kilos it's recommending. I'd usually put 8 or even 9 kilos or even 10 kilos into this machine. That's why it's taken so long. Yeah. Right, also I'll show you, so our time delay button is here. Push it. So there you go, it says 10:58. You start in no minutes, so it'll finish in 2 hours and 3 minutes. But we can add on half an hour, whatever, and it'll tell you it'll finish in 4 hours 3 with 2 hours on. But that's obviously going off, you know, what it's calculated as. If you put a small load in there, it's going to finish a lot earlier. So you can do the starting, half an hour steps up to 10 hours. If it's half an hour steps up to 24 hours. But I'll have to go backwards just to turn it off. Right. Then we've got gentle tumble. Push that option, it extends the time a little bit. That's a actual just an additional 12 minutes. If I was to turn it to say here and push it, it's adding on 6 minutes. So it is calculating it a bit. So it's like a percentage on top of the time. And what Gentle Tumble does, it doesn't affect the heat, which is a bit bizarre. What it does do, though, is affect the mechanical action. It reduces it, apparently, the mechanical action of the drum, which is a little bit bizarre, since you generally need, you know, the drum tumbling to dry stuff. I have used the option, but not too much. Mainly because I thought it was actually low heat. Turns out I was wrong. Right, then we've got minimum iron. Again, you can have normal plus, normal or hand iron. Same dryness settings effectively as the cottons. It's made for drying half a load, 3.5 kilograms of man-made fibres like polyester and polycotton, etc. Yeah, Gentle Tumble is available with these programs. Then we've got time dry, so we've got cool air. Cool air is no heat whatsoever, but you can have up to 2 hours. 5-minute steps up to half an hour, and 10-minute steps all the way up to 2 hours. No Gentle Tumble action. Then we've got warm air, so this is where it actually uses heat and turns on the compressor to dry your clothes. It's great for finishing stuff off, for example, if your load's not fully done. For example, if you're drying very small loads, maybe 1 or 2 items, use warm air. It doesn't use a sensor to dry anything, so it will run for that time period, heating the air. My caveat with this, though, and it's very bizarre, is cool air allows 2 hours, warm air allows 60 minutes. Yeah, that's 20 minutes of hot air. Actually, there is no cooldown on this machine. Well, you can program it in, but it will never get hot enough usually to get there. You can have Gentle Tumble as well. Then we've got Cotton Standard. Now this isn't in the instruction manual that I've got, possibly because it's slightly older than what this machine is, but post obviously 2013, so basically 2014 onwards, they came with the Cotton's Standard drying. So basically it's Cotton's normal dry, but ever so finely tuned, slightly damper to achieve basically the energy efficiency rating for this machine, because effectively this is still a domestic machine in a weird way, rather than an actual commercial machine. So it still has to follow the same regulations as a normal domesticated machine. So max load, again, 6.5 kilo. No gentle action though, no Gentle Tumble. That's to make it so it uses less energy, of course. Then we've got Woolens hand care. Basically, it's 20 minutes of a little bit of heat. It doesn't actually dry the woolens whatsoever. It's there to finish them off. Hence the hand care. So you take them out of the washing machine, you put them in here, it will soften them up, then you finish drying them on an area or something like that. Now on the normal machines, they're 8 minutes long. On this it's 20 minutes long, simply because of course how long it takes to heat up the dryer. Max load is 2.5 kilograms, which is I think more than the actual washing machine. Right, then we've got the toweling cycle. At normal plus, effectively it's just cottons really. Max load is 6.5 kilograms. Gentle Tumble is not available, so it's basically cottons, just no Gentle Tumble. It will likely also allow it to go a lot hotter than normal as well if it needs to, but it doesn't. Then we go under special programs. We've got denim. Right, so when you go under special programs, you now have access to the dryness level. So we can have, with denim for example, normal dry and hand iron. We can also have the Gentle Tumble action. And this allows you to carefully dry 3.5 kilograms of denim. But it's a little bit bizarre to me because denim for me always has, you know, it always has double layers on. So effectively, I'm hoping that when you use this program, which I've not used yet, that it takes into account the hems to cure them. Otherwise, effectively, what is exactly the program? Right. Then we've got shirts, which allows you to dry 2.5 kilograms of shirts, and this is to actually dry them. It's there to reduce the creasing. Again, you can have normal or hand iron, and you can have the gentle tumble action. Then we've got outerwear, again normal or hand iron. So what outerwear does is it kind of limits the temperature, and what it does is effectively dry stuff to a normal degree, but it kind of cycles the heat in and out to allow the moisture in the padding to come outwards. Then we've got pillows. Again, it's 2 hours warm, no dryness variability, no gentle tumble. What pillows does is, like I said about outerwear, is effectively dry the pillows and then switch off the heat, then dry it again, then switch off the heat, and it might do that 3 times to allow the moisture to draw itself out from the pillows. Then we've got delicates. So all it kind of says in the manual is allows you up to 4 kilograms of delicates, which is a bit bizarre. And it actually also says, you know, cottons, minimum iron, whatever. I think it limits the temperature effectively to about 40 degrees. Never used it. Then we've got the basket, standard temperature, time drying basically, minimum of 20 minutes. Again, you can go up to an hour and a half. So effectively you put the basket in, which is an additional product, you fit it in, put your items in, it just runs at a normal temperature. The drum still rotates and blows hot air. Yeah, I mean, personally, I'd use this over the warm air since you can get longer drying cycles. Then we've got silks, and that limits the temperature to no more than 40 degrees. It's made for drying 1.5 kilos of silk and blouses and polyester stuff at very low temperatures. No gentle tumble available. Right, there is one more program that you can set via the menu, hidden menu inside, which is a bit bizarre because I can access via the code, yet it won't let me access the actual program that I can also select, which is an automatic program. Why it won't automatically put it on and why you have to additionally select it, like as part of a program package, I'll never know. Since automatic program makes more sense since the domestic machines have automatic. Yeah. Anyway, you can have automatic. It allows you to basically dry 3.5 kilograms of mixed cottons and minimum iron stuff. And again, you can have normal plus, normal and hand iron options. Yeah. Effectively, because minimum iron dries before the cottons does, it's going to try and ignore that and just only focus on the cottons. So make sure they're all fully dry. That's what automatic does. There we go. So all the programs. Right, we'll do a demonstration then. What I'm going to do is select cottons, Gentle Tumble. Cotton's Plus, Gentle Tumble. So this machine isn't entirely 100% healthy. We've got a little bit of a squeal at the start. Sometimes squealing could come back during the cycle. And we've also got a rumble from one of the we've got a rumble for one of the rollers. So it thinks it's going to take around 48 minutes to dry. It will also continually update that as well. It won't necessarily stick to 48 minutes. If it takes longer, it takes longer. If it takes shorter, it takes shorter. Press fans just turned on, but that will switch on intermittently. And yes, I've been running this for about 6 months like this. That's bizarre. Yeah, that was good timing. They are indeed fully dried. And unlike a normal domestic dryer, I don't have time to take the water tank out. Right, so what give this out of 10 then? Well, apart from the fact that that roller's a little bit knacked, if we ignore that and the fact that it's actually done... Okay, so it's done 4,099 operating hours. So if we ignore the fact that it's done 4,000 hours, that's not 10-year old actually. That's quite low. That's 400 hours a year. In fact, if anything, that's probably jumped up a lot more since I've... It has actually. It's done way over 200 hours since I've had it. So if we ignore the rumbling of the roller, what am I going to give this out of 10 then? I like it. It's still quite fast for a heat pump. That's good. It's still economical for a heat pump. That's good. It's got a lot of programs. That's good. I've noticed though, there's no such thing as extra dry on this. In fact, you don't get extra dry on lots of heat pumps around this time actually. Apart from maybe the Samsung, because even the Bosch didn't even have extra dry. So a bit of an odd one. But there's a couple of things that I don't... There's no hygiene dry, which is a bit of a downer for me, since they could have implemented it anyway. Apart from that, I'm going to give it, out of 10, I'm going to give it 9.5 out of 10. It's almost perfect. It's missing a couple of programs here and there. I find it funny how it's got that dump valve at the bottom, but there's no messaging. That's the only problem. That dump valve will open and it won't tell you it's either going to overflow and then dump that valve. So other than that, it's not bad actually.